Welcome back to another
Huh?
episode of Survivor Worldwide. I've got Paul here with me, who's the latest victee of Survivor South Africa Immunity Island. Paul, how are you doing?
I'm doing very good in yourself, Chris. Very good, thanks.
I'm good. Now, I did ask you whereabouts you are sitting at the moment. Is it the green screen behind you there, or is that real leaves?
No, these are real leaves. These are real leaves.
Nice. You were hungry on the island, and you're hungry off the island. You're still eating those leaves. Were you aware that people were getting annoyed with you on the island eating so much food, or was this something that was a surprise to you when you watched the episode?
No, I was aware because people were vocal about it. So but for me it was like, hey man, I was hungry, dog. I mean, I put up a big fight in the challenges, so I need to reward my body.
Yeah, and you're a strong physical man. You've got a lot of muscles, so I guess it's a lot harder. Your muscles would want that nutrition when you're out on the island as well. I did want to ask you, Paul, were you a fan of Survivor prior to playing it, or was this something that you just thought would be a cool experience for you to go on and play the show?
Look, I've always been a fan, like since I was a kid, and then I watched like 2 or 3 episodes, and then I kind of just when I started traveling and doing living life and things like that, then I forgot about it. And then when I actually came back to South Africa, then my friend was like, yo, listen dude, like when last did you watch Survivor? This last season it's going up, which was season 7, was Rob's season, and we watched it, and I was just like, actually,
Yeah.
I need to enter this thing. Like, this is just too much drama. Like, I love this.
And what was it like playing the game versus the expectation of what it would be like being out there actually doing it?
Look, I definitely think it's easier to sit behind the screen and be like, oh, I would do this, because my friend messaged me like, oh, you could have done this. I said, the best people who've never done it always have the greatest advice. So I thought, actually, okay, let me actually just be this person and enter and see if I can get in. And it's exactly like when you have these theories of like, oh, they're really hungry and this and that, and it's 100% real. Like when I got there, I was like, shit, these guys aren't playing around. Like, this is real stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, we got that scene, and I can't remember, I think it was episode 2, where you guys had to abandon the shelter and go into the cave to try and hide from the conditions out there. What was it like just surviving, I guess, with the cold and the rain and everything like that? Did you find that it was hard to adapt to it, or what was that experience like?
Look, I can definitely say that was it just hands down probably my favorite experience, because the reality is, cool. If it's raining outside, I say, oh, let me go stand out in the rain, and then you can always just decide to go back inside. Whereas there, it's like the only way you're getting out is if you actually quit. So you got to actually stick it out. So for me, it was like, okay, well, how far can you actually push yourself, and like how much actual discomfort can one handle, and how much can I actually like, and so I'm like, actually, I can't handle this anymore. So for me, it is a great learning experience to like figure out like, okay, like I can actually, I can do this, I can. So it was phenomenal.
Now, another thing as well is because we did see you, you looked like you were quite at home out there on the island, and you ended up building quite a few things around the shelter, and you were a bit of a handyman. Is this a skill you've always had, or is this something that you discovered out there on the island?
Look, I've always been a very practical person. So in my years of traveling, I used to work at a summer camp, and there's like you consistently building thing with kids and making things, So I wouldn't say I've never. I've always wanted to go to Scouts, but never went to Scouts. But I've always like been a person that enjoys the outdoors and building forts and things. So for me, it was like, oh yes, I can actually get to try this thing out,
Yeah. And early on, we see in episode 1 there that you made very good friends with Chappies, and Chappies was close to Pinty. And, how did that relationship sort of start between you and Chappies, and I guess later on Pinty and Inesu that was brought into that? And who were the other people that we didn't see on the screen that you tried to work with in those early days in the tribe?
So I think where Chappies and my relationship started was when we sat around the fire. If you see in the first night, we literally sitting there next to each other, freezing and cold and stuff. So I think that's where that relationship started, and sitting on the fire and going through challenges, like realized that both of us are like we kind of worked well together when it came to deciding on decisions and like working with each other's strengths. So I mean, for him and I, we bonded actually quite well. Not necessarily because we didn't like it was nice because there were moments where we didn't talk about the gameplay, but when we're sitting there fishing, we're actually chatting about life and I think like that was where it bonded really well. I think I wouldn't say that there was any relationships that I built off screen because all the relationships that I had were my only relationship was with Chappies, and that was the only one that I stuck with. And yeah.
But you did seem like quite a popular guy out there. You had someone from the opposing tribe who tried to form an alliance with you in the first episode. Were you aware that Dino was trying to word to you that he wanted to be sent to Immunity Island, or was that whole scene quite a surprise for you when you saw it on the TV as well?
It was quite a surprise because I was also like, hold on, dude, like I'm not gonna try and save you. Like, hold on, like I'm not trying to seem like a double agent on the first day. So I kind of just like ignore. Well, I knew what he was trying to do, but I also thought to myself, okay, hold on, like you've just won the immunity necklace. Like I don't understand why you're worried, Yeah. So I just kind of it went straight over my head.
And that early stages when he was trying to point you towards the immunity idol, were you ever going to go for the immunity idol, or did you just think no, you didn't want that type of target on you early in the game?
Look, in the beginning, so when we actually collected the food, we did collect the food, and then I actually did say to myself, actually not the last 10 seconds, and Nick was like 10 seconds, I ran all the way to the back, and obviously as I'd run past, he had then told me. But because you're in such a hurry, you actually see me run right past that thing, but it was like on top of a pole. And when I saw it, I literally jumped up and grabbed it, but by that time it was too late.
No, fair enough. And then in the early stages, we see that there's quite a bit of strategizing happening when you guys go to your first tribal and you lose your first immunity to either get Mike out or Pinty out, and eventually Pinty is the person who gets voted out. And I know that the fans went crazy on Twitter about this, and if I didn't ask the question, they would be coming for me. Were you aware of where the votes were going to go on that night, and was your ultimate reason for wanting to vote Wada that her cooking was really that bad? What happened there? Talk us through a little bit of what we didn't see.
So I think with that, no, we were aware that it was happening because Anesu told us. In terms of like all the other surprises, no, we didn't actually know. And I guess like again, it's like my alliance was only with Chappies, and I stuck to that. So there was information, like I said, that didn't touch my ears, which I was perfectly happy with. And at that point for me, it made logical sense that okay, well, what they usually say is, well, I mean, the common denominator. If everyone like dislikes you, then I guess, well, you got to go with this vote. Yeah. And then just remind me of that last part of the question.
Yeah, so your ultimate reason for voting for Wada was because of her cooking. Was that a valid reason for why you wanted to vote? Like, was it really that bad?
So Wada, so for me, I was actually onto Wada about her strategic gameplay in terms of like being that maternal person in the tribe and things like that. So I was actually also I was watching that, and then I guess within the game, my mentality was that we want to make her worried to know that she mustn't get comfortable, and then also on the flip side, it was also a strategic move from our side because had Pinty somewhat had an idol, then we would need to somehow reel it back into our lines. We're like, look, well, proof's in the pudding. We actually didn't vote for you. If we go and we check, you can see that we didn't vote for you. So then it would almost be a thing of like, okay, well, she knows who she can't trust and she knows who she can trust.
I understand. And with the way that the tribe swap ultimately plays out here, you get swapped onto the tribe here with Wada, Santoni, obviously with your man Chappies, and with Mike and Carla. If you were with the other three that ended up landing on the opposing tribe, so if you ended up with Kiran, Tyson, and Anesu, would you say there was more of a likelihood you would have worked with that faction opposed to the faction that ended up landing on your tribe? Or would it have been the same case where you just thought that you burned me once, I'm cutting all ties and I'm going to go in a different direction?
No, probably I definitely would have worked with them because I mean, Anesu was part of our alliance, and then she had then been aligned with Tyson and Kieran. So I definitely would have worked for them, and I'm sure the outcome would have been very different.
No, 100%. And to roll into the actual tribe that you landed on, you ended up with Carla and Warada and Mike, who the three people that it seemed like you couldn't work things out with them. Was there a specific reason that you couldn't go back to them? Was it the way that like certain personalities just don't clash? Was there things that we didn't see, or was it really because of the fact that they betrayed you? And as the episode showed, they try to get either yourself and Chappies out early on in the swap. Was that ultimately that made you decide, no, listen, I've got to get rid of these guys?
Yes, no, definitely, because like if you watch in the second episode, like from the get go, Carla's already gunning for us, and then later down the line, she realized that okay, this plan has actually backfired because then Mike then calls a council meeting to then say, okay, look, we need to stick to our strategy. And it was like, okay, but I don't understand like how one of your tribe members is going all around the corner ready to throw us under the bus, but then now you actually want to reel us in because you realize that okay, well, these three members that you were willing to vote off one of their members is now on our side, and now we want to vote them off. So so it was like, okay, well, it's a no-brainer because now they want to save their three, so we can reel their three in, and we've got the majority votes, and we can get rid of someone who we wanted to get rid of. And it was almost practically a dog eat dog because it's like had it gone the way that they wanted to go, either me or Chappies would have gone home a lot sooner.
Yeah.
So then it's okay. Well, now, can you really blame us for not trusting you when the minute you had the opportunity to go against us, you went all out?
Yeah, and from what I've seen in this episode, you end up saving Anella also in a smash in this vote because that's who that alliance was trying to target in this vote. And Anella then ends up giving you his word that he wouldn't vote against you, and he kind of kept that until the end. Do you still see what he did as a betrayal, or are you all good with Anella in regards to the fact that he never gave you the information that the vote was coming your way? Because in his mind, he thought, if I don't vote against Paul, and maybe Paul won't blame me because I gave him my word, but at the end of the day, he didn't give you any information to try and save yourself either. How are you feeling about Anella after seeing that?
100%, and I think also if you think about it, I mean, the nice thing about Survivor is that it's all about planting a seed. So all I have to do is just plant a seed, and then just let it grow. So now if I've planted a seed where, like, once again, you have one common enemy, then it's like, oh well, actually, this guy's supposedly with Paul, but he's planted the seed, which means that he's willing to go against him. So then you let that actual seed grow, and it grows on the other side. So if the blind side does come, and he was the one who planted the seed, no one knows that it came from him. Well, I don't know that it came from him because as far as I understand, as far as my mind is in the game, is that I know that there's people that want me out. So I'm expecting it to come from these people. But the seed is planted from someone within my alliance.
Yes, and obviously someone that sort of worked very closely with you throughout, I guess through Chappies, that's who we see that relationship being formed with is Santoni. And Santoni is probably one of the people here that sort of turns the tables on you and works with the girls. What was your relationship like with Santoni, and how shocked were you to find this out at a later stage after having worked with her on that previous vote?
Look, I wasn't, from the beginning, I always did have doubts about Santoni. And I guess the one doubt is that I knew that she couldn't keep her mouth shut. Well, she couldn't keep quiet or keep secrets and things like that. So for me, I guess I got confidence in that. Well, I'm definitely gonna find out some way or another, And I guess it was a great move on her part to then say, okay, well, I'm tired of being, this ping pong ball that's going between Mike and Carla, and actually, just remove the net straight down the middle and pull the trigger. So,
no, 100%.
So I was a little bit shocked, but it's a great move on her part because, yeah.
100%. Well, she's got. I guess she's got that close tie with Chappies as well. So removing you from the equation brings her in a little bit closer with Chappies, potentially, depending on how Chappies sees this betrayal. I'm really looking forward to the next episode to see how he bounces back from losing you as his right-hand person in the game. Now, another thing that we sort of see at this episode is that there are certain times in the game where different people are saying that you became quite confident, almost to the point of it being a little bit overconfident, and running the camp and sort of dictating things in the camp. How did you sort of take that, seeing that on the TV? And do you feel like that potentially was a downfall in your game, that you started taking more control in camp and having a bigger voice?
No, look, so I mean, in regards to like me seeming overconfident, like I mean, that's me. That's how I do things. I like to play around. So my natural self and your perception of me being overconfident are completely two different things, and I guess in this game you always want to be on edge in terms of how people are acting and how they're actually behaving and things, because I'm sure if you ask Chappies what you think, he'd say, well, that's actually just Paul. That's how he talks. That's how I carry myself in making jokes and things. Yeah. So I wasn't too bothered by it because I'm comfortable with myself. So
Now, one aspect of the game that you really excelled on was the challenge aspect. Even in this last challenge, you're seen as someone that when you go out there to go get those big pieces, you're super fast getting out there, really good at rolling it back. And I guess even the thing you mentioned at the end there is that you would be remembered as one of the most physically dominant people in the game. I agree with that. Challenge-wise, you did an extremely good job. What do you think went wrong in this specific challenge when it came to putting those puzzle pieces together? And how big of an effect was it ultimately? I know it was asked in Tribal Council to lose Sean, potentially an extra guy that could have helped with lifting those big pieces. Do you think that made a big difference out there when you were competing? Or what do you think went wrong? If you had to dissect, you've had some time to think about it now, in that challenge for you guys.
Look, I definitely feel that it would have made a difference if we had Sean, purely on the basis that they would have either then not have to sort out according to Zamba, the weaker members would have, which was Anesu and Torizo. So it would have made a difference, especially with the guys in terms of like actually organizing and lifting the blocks and things. And then I think also, I mean, once again, like, when shit hits the fan, it's like everybody's scrambling around. You're trying to do this, you're trying to do that, and then at the same time, you're also taking tips from the other tribe. It's like, okay, these guys have got it. Okay, let's actually steal an idea from them and then put that into play. So I mean, once again, it all boils down to like just being frantic and knowing that us, we are down and we just got to try and work, because I mean, on their side, like everyone is involved in athletic, but on our side, unfortunately, we don't have athletic. We didn't really have a full athletic squad in terms of like being able to pick up the blocks and move things, which we understood. So we tried to use that to the best of our ability. And I think it just boiled down to just like communication, because the planning, we planned, this is the strategy, and once the strategy came into play, then things started changing, because now we realize that we need to move faster, but we can't move faster because we need to actually put things in place and put this here, So yeah, it was just
Yeah, 100%. And sort of rolling it back a little bit, since we touched on Sean here, what was it like being out there with Sean, having to get medical attention and things like that? How much of an effect did that have on the morale of the camp? And you get people here from the outside of the bubble coming in with masks and things like that. How did that affect everybody in the camp?
So I don't think it affected us that much. I think more so for Sean, because I mean, like you mentioned, like he was struggling to breathe and things. So I suppose like for him, like that's also a concern. I guess like naturally as a normal human being, you'd want the guy to be okay. But then on the flip side, it's like, well, this is also a game, and if this takes him out of the game, this works for it works in any player's favor.
Yeah. Is there anybody in the game that you played with that you're going to be staying in touch with afterwards?
I've definitely probably stay in touch with quite a few of the guys. I mean, I feel like, I feel like outside of the game, when you don't have this mentality, then you can actually sit and get to know people. So for sure, Chappies, a few of the Vuna members, I'm sure, one day when I'm sure they bring us all together, chat to some of the Zamba members and get to know those guys, and just see, what is going on, and just see
So
what they
no,
are outside of the game.
yeah, so no hard feelings. The game's the game, and you're happy to move on and meet people at face value after that, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, I can be picky and choosy, but for the most part, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I don't know you, it seems silly for me to now judge you based on a game.
Yeah,
So
fair enough. And what's the I guess being out there, what's your favorite memory or the thing that you're going to keep with you forever, the thing that you enjoyed the most about playing the game?
I think I would say the challenges. I would definitely say the challenges were phenomenal. Just planning and realizing that okay, you only got a few minutes to plan, and then you got to try and get this done. And then I think also those downtimes of sitting around the fire, either waiting for challenges to come through or building the shelter and chatting to and chatting to your tribe mates about something other than gameplay. You know.
Yeah, and as someone, you mentioned you've traveled quite a bit and you've gone around the world. What was it like to play Survivor in your own backyard, potentially in an area or a place that you've never been? I'm from South Africa originally as well, from Cape
Yeah.
Town. I've never been to the Wild Coast myself. So what was it? I don't know if you've been there, but what was it like sort of to do this whole experience in your own backyard?
No, look, I've honestly never been there. And then, once I got back home, I mean, like, I realized and I went and searched it. And then I was like, hold on, like, I've actually been to South Brim, which is around the corner from this place. And it was phenomenal because now these are landscapes that we actually don't know about that were just like, yes, this is mind blowing how actual there are these small, little, beautiful sections within the country that are just breathtaking.
Now, if you were asked the question to go out there and play the game again, would you accept it? Would you go and play Survivor again?
Definitely. I'd be there yesterday.
Yeah, and have you had time to think about what you would do differently?
Look, that's an interesting question here because now I suppose it's like you can't really say what you would do differently because as you get further on in the game, you revert back to your natural self. So it's hard to think of what you do differently. I think what I would definitely say is that I would listen to my gut because on that day when I was a little bit paranoid where I was going, like I sought to go and speak to the people that I could trust to then get the affirmation that okay, no, this is not happening, and you're just being paranoid for no reason. And had I stuck to my gut of like, no, there's definitely something going on, and not searched for some validation and like I'm being paranoid, then I definitely think like it could have been could have turned out a whole lot differently for me.
Okay, so what's next for you, Paul? Is there anything that you are currently working on, passion projects, anything that you'd like to plug on here? For instance, I'll put in your Instagram in the description below and anything else that you want me to sort of make people aware of. This is your time to sort of mention it now.
Yeah, so look, I mean, I did look at Come Down With Me. Come Down With Me looks like quite an interesting little show to jump on, And I mean, if I'm going to judge what it is cooking, I might as well show people what I can actually do,
Fair enough.
Yeah, and then in terms of like passion projects, I think for me, like there's one or two apps that I'm kind of trying to develop from a schooling point of view that I know don't exist in so well they're not actually that big this side. So I'd like to try and get those going in terms of like managing aftercare systems and schooling systems. And then the other one, I can say it, but I can't say it because the minute I say it, like I know that it can be snatched up at any point. But it's more so got to do with in terms of like caregiving and just making it a lot easier for people, to be able to get like first class healthcare, but maybe at a discounted rate and things like that. But yeah.
So look out for that in the future. I'll make sure to give you my email address if you want to break into the Australasian market. I actually work in the tech industry over here. That's my full-time job. So if you ever want to break into this side, we'll talk afterwards. But it's been great having you on the show, Paul. And there has been no castaway I've spoken to this season that hasn't been great to talk to. And I'm always gutted to lose you guys every single week. But that is the nature of Survivor, that we have to say goodbye to everybody, one after each other, and only one person ultimately is going to win this game. But I thank you for your time. And if you stay on the line for 1 second, I will talk to you afterwards to say how we'll share this. Guys, if you like this video, subscribe, hit the notification bell and like it. And keep following us as we keep recapping all of the Survivor South Africa Immunity Island episodes. And also we will have exit interviews. Next week, we'll have an exit interview with the 5th person who will be voted out. Who knows, Chappies might get his revenge. Talk to you guys next time.